Hey Chris, good to see you again, man. I know I know you had sent the text to say, hey, well actually, I can probably find it here. I think you said next talking point, the division in our political structure today.
That's the plan. Yeah, let's go after it. We were talking the other day about family conversations and how quickly they end lately when there's division or different mindsets or viewpoints, and it's sad. So yeah, I want to go after it because I think it's a whole ball of wax that we should probably jump into and really try and assess. Um,
Well, I shared that with our youngest son. We'll give a shout out to all of our kids. I know that we each have multiple, you, Ben, and I, and near as I can tell, we're all blessed with kids beyond what we deserve as far as the human beings they are.
that's for sure.
And I'm just going to share this because I think this is a very good introduction to exactly what your talking point is about. And our youngest son happened to hit us up with this, and he said, "Hey, this is a statement that caught my eye, and I think a lot about it. The worldview significance of conservatism versus liberalism, or even more ideologically driven, progressivism. The liberals vote in lockstep far more often than the conservatives and ask the question, why would that be so? Well, one answer would be that conservatives are not monolithic on a number of issues, especially when applied in particular situations. But there is a more general point here, and I say this as someone very much committed to political and constitutional conservatism, and that is this: conservatism is not an ideology, it is a disposition. Liberalism often is an ideology and less a disposition. What's the difference? Well, the conservative disposition is to understand the importance of stability of institutions, of process, of the stability of the importance of precedent and history and tradition. The point of conservatism is the disposition to conserve what is valuable in tradition, what is valuable in institutions, and that make civilization even possible, including marriage and family. That's what makes conservatism conservative, an effort to conserve. Liberalism, from the very beginning of that term in modern politics, especially in the French Revolution and to present day, has been far more ideological, based in abstract principles to which allegiance must be given. Now I'm coming back to that point in a minute when I finish up with this, but I'm coming back to that for sure. And then he goes on to say something else I've been thinking about with the presidential election coming up. Biden will almost likely attempt to sound progressive by displaying his allegiances to progress. It is ideological. All he has to do in order to get progressive votes is to communicate his intention to progress society. He doesn't have to have any foundational disposition towards any institution or history or actually any relativity, any reality. And that will feel to us that are conservative as blind emotionalism, untethered from the grounding of valuable institutions, of history, and of tradition. And so we automatically see that happen, and then we create this division that's we've never seen before. I thought Logan summed that up to try to explain this current division in our political setting in the United States. I thought he summed that up very well. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, so that was written by Logan.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've met Logan.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Um, I think that the viewpoint, as I agree with them, but I think the viewpoint is a little closed-minded to a point. Every politician out there runs against the opposition after a situation where, I mean, you look at Barack Obama, you look at George W. Their fundamental policies of what they ran on was kind of it was exact opposition. I don't know if there's a matter of fact statements there about Republicans versus liberals, and I don't know if all of that is on point. It was hard for me to keep up with to a point, but the one thing that struck my interest was coming in without an institution, and you're saying that by far liberals vote kind of as a gang more than Republicans, and I'm not sure where that's coming from. If you look at the stance of how voting has been going, whether it's federal or whether it's state, I think you get these gangbusters overall that everybody just kind of bands together and then they vote with their leadership. You want to talk about the liberal Democratic Party and the issues there, go to the super PACs. That's where you're seeing all the skewed mindsets and the control over the money. Who's going to be able to retain the value for their next campaign? Who's going to be able to run on their next campaign? Who's not going to get kicked out? And I agree with the statement that you do this or else, you run this way or else. You see a lot more independent Republicans out there that are running on the stance of collecting money from multiple individuals or companies or institutions coming in. You don't see that as much on the Democratic side. You don't see a lot of single business owners being Democrats either. You don't see a lot of the individual wealth being Democrats in the country. So they've kind of had to force themselves into a situation of numbers. And that's the natural progression, I think, that's going to come from that. You look at the evolution of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and how it's evolved. My frustration at this point is that people can't get their head out of their own asses to figure out what's the value of the real people, of the voter, of the common person. It doesn't matter anymore. I can't sit here and say that Republicans have my best interest or Democrats have my best interest. I feel like at the end of the day, they're sitting there bickering over what's going into different bills and who's spending the money and who's getting allocated the funds and who's getting the most attention. Like you say, Jim, the squeaky wheel. But I don't know. I don't know. The division, my frustration is that the division today is that if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, we're judging people on what they write. We're judging people on what they say based on what they brand themselves as.
So not enough information. So out of context and not enough information. Let me comment on a couple things. In coming back to that point that I mentioned I was going to, allegiance must be given. And I would disagree on the voting with what you commented on. And I'm going to give an example. And this has been over the last 3 years especially. But under the last 8 years of the previous administration, you could see a lot more of it as well. And that is the Democrats are very much in lockstep. And if you are a Democrat and you don't do what Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer says, or in this state, you're against Gretchen Whitmer, you're going to pay for it. The example that is speaking truth to my statement is the young lady who was the state rep in Detroit. She went on national mainstream media. Mm-hmm. She told her story that she was thanking President Trump for bringing attention to HCQ.
Right.
She talked to her doctor about it. She felt like she was dying. The doctor said she was in a bad way. She contributes that and praises the president.
Yeah.
What do? They censor her.
Right.
Because that's not allowed.
Yeah.
In the Democratic Party, that's not allowed for you to step out of line and to say anything good. So it comes down to Trump deranged syndrome, TDS. What you are asking about,
Jim.
Hold on. Let me finish. What you are asking about is something that Jeb Bush told us all about in one of the because Jeb Bush was not in the Republican debates very long, but he looked right in the camera, and I thought he was talking to me, and I thought he was talking to you, and he said, "We can't take this guy seriously. We can't take this guy. We can't take this guy seriously."
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to the elite, which is both the Democrats and the Republicans. It's the bureaucratic establishment saying, we're not going to let this guy keep rolling here. We got to stop this guy. He was not talking to the American public about keep taking this guy seriously. And that's why you have, I just printed off the article. I have not had a chance to read it yet. Ben has it right now, but it's 50 Shades of Red. There are never Trumpers right now in the Republican Party that are only going along with that administration if they feel like they can gain some points back home, but they hate the man. The political establishment in this country hate Donald Trump. The mainstream media, which you can say is almost all, including Fox, there are a handful of main hosts on Fox that like President Trump, but there are some that hate President Trump. A few of them have already left the network and they've gone other places. But even Fox included, mainstream media is controlled by 6 major conglomerates. Mainstream media, they're just dealing with Trump, hoping that they can get this election, get him out of there in this next election. Trump deranged syndrome is as real. Actually, it's more real and more dangerous than SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus COVID-19, as we call it today. Back to you.
I listen, I see where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. I don't see it that way to a point. I mean, Democrat.
I'm glad because that's part of the dialogue, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Democratic Party, Republican Party, you look at Mitt Romney going outside the box, on the vote for more information on impeachment. Was he outcasted and put to shame? Absolutely he was, but he's also a United States Senator. It's hard to do it with that. But these things happen in politics. Groups band together. If you're not on our team, you're against us.
I like the fact that you brought up Mitt, because think about Mitt, the career politician, born into wealth and privilege. His father was.
We'll get back. We always do this. We jump around. We'll get back to Mitt in a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to talk about the never Trumpers and whatnot. I agree with you. Yep. That establishment is deep and it runs deep, and there's a reason why it runs deep, and that's only honestly because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has single-handedly put himself in this position. I don't care who you are.
Amen. I say amen.
He's put himself in this position. He knew which buttons to push. He knew how to get there. I agree with him and his establishment as far as wanting to drain the swamp. Do I agree with how he goes about it? No. Do I agree with what he says on TV? Do I think he's a buffoon? I do. He's horrible for TV. He's horrible for the representative. Well, I shouldn't say he's horrible to represent the United States government, because there's certain aspects of it that he does very well. But then there's certain aspects where he is, second generation, gifted money. The guy is ignorant. He has no idea where the hell he's at when it comes down to the real troubles of America. The guy's hired. Come on. His products are made in China. Why? Because he's smart at business. He has them manufactured there because it's cheaper. There's nothing wrong with that. It's free trade. Do it. My issue is that he wants to sit here and say, I got a $1 million loan or a $10 million loan or a $100 million small loan from his dad. And he claims that that's nothing, like everybody has opportunity for that. My issue with Donald Trump is his sheer ignorance. Do I think that he's a good leader in these kind of times? No, I don't. We look at January, February, we've got it under control. This thing's going to kind of just go away. It's going to be gone one day. His reality, my issue is his reality of the circumstances. The cause and effect aspect. He says one thing, he means another thing. Get the message right. You do one thing, it's going to cause something else to happen. Think before you act type thing. It's basics. But yeah, I think that the anti-Trump movement runs deep, very deep. But I think that the Trump supporters runs deep. You look at the movements that are happening in Lansing right now. Listen, I'd be all about going to protest with Whitmer, but I also don't want swastikas hanging up behind me. I don't want I don't want racial profiling happening with people that I'm going around because of the sheer ignorance of it.
Well, I want to get to a couple of the other points that you made, but let me just comment on that real quick because you rolled into a different topic, but I'll comment on that. Based on all the numbers from the aerial photos from drones and the number of people that were in Lansing last Wednesday. And anytime you put humans together, you're going to have some things happen that you wish hadn't. The vast majority of signs were respectful, requesting to get back to work. The vast majority of people, you see a couple hundred people out of their cars, there were thousands of people there. That means the vast majority of people were being socially respectful. And as far as if there are people that are racist in any way, I'll quote Phil Donahue, let's turn the light on. Let's take a look at them. Let's see what they really stand for. Because when it comes right down to it, they do not have, they have an ideology. They do not have the facts to stand on, and they do not stand the test of time. But I wanted to mention Mitt Romney. Again, I look at that guy and I think, okay, now there's a real guy that came from wealth and privilege, father in automobile industry, becomes governor of the state of Michigan. Does he have roots here? I don't know where Mitt Romney's roots are, because then he decides, and he's going to run because he can. He becomes governor in Massachusetts. And then he runs for the presidency of the United States and he would not call out Barack Obama and all of the lies, cheating, and stealing that he did in the first 4 years. So he didn't win that election. He had every opportunity to win that election. And then he goes out and he takes up residency in, is it Utah? Because he's a Mormon. That's right, my bad. And he wants to say, because he was saying when the first time he ran for president that he's going to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. And then when he's running for the Senate position, he wants Donald Trump's approval. Please, I'm for you, buddy. And then what does he do? I had to vote my conscience. I had to vote to impeach him because I got to live with me.
So you're upset that he went against the groove? I don't understand. You're upset because he went against the groove of the Republicans?
No. It was his basis. All of those things were lies. Trump deranged syndrome has exposed the biggest deep state FISA court abuse. And I'm going to just list off a few people right off the top of my head. Kerry, Lynch, Holder, Rice, Clinton, and Biden and Obama, Comey, McCain, Clapper, and Brennan. All of these people, all of them have committed treasonous acts against the United States, FISA abuse, and if any of their names sounded anything like the three of us, everybody would be in jail. But because their names and who they are and what they represent, we're going to see a little, oh, don't pay attention over here. Oh, we've investigated it. It looks like everything's going to go away. The treasonous acts by those people that I just stated, and let me say, right now, I'm just on this topic from the previous administration and what they did to this current administration. There are a number of Republicans we can rattle off that are committing treasonous acts on a weekly basis, because anybody that's ever listened to me, it doesn't matter if you have an R or a D next to your name, you have been committing treason through the acts in the name of being an elected official. Donald Trump is a different guy. He's not a politician. So a couple of the things that I will give him praise on, because my list of criticisms are growing. All right, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But he made his own money, regardless of whatever deal he got from his dad. So many people get money from their parents and they've blown it. As a matter of fact, so many third-generation children have blown the entire family legacy, and that's what they see, the law of large numbers, is that the family legacy dies in that third generation because they never had to work hard.
You know where Donald Trump made the majority of his money?
What's that?
You know where he made the majority of his money?
Well, I'm going to say that he is a real estate businessman that has taken advantage of and lived within the rules of the United States system.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just wondering if you know where he really made the majority of his money. I mean, you know, reports are, speculation is, we're still waiting on
Okay,
tax
so hold
returns
on,
to prove
hold
it.
on, hold on, hold on. Reports are, speculation is. So when you say, do you know where he made the majority of his money? And then you say, the reports are, speculation is. So you don't know either.
No, I don't. I'm just telling
Okay.
that's what I'm asking you. It seems like and support them pretty heavily on that. So, I mean, my understanding is that there's a lot of reports that in show business is where he made a lot of his money. A lot of the money that came from his parents, his dad, his family, the buildings that he inherited, the developments he did. A lot of the developments he didn't actually succeed, from what we know from talking to different cities and contractors. And then him branding the name, which, hey, it's smart, brand your name, sell, let buildings use your name to identify themselves and make it more liquidable for themselves. So no, I mean, I'm just curious on, do we know where he made his money? As far as Donald Trump being a businessman, you're 100% correct. I don't fault him for that. I don't know.
One of the other things I want to jump in with, and I'll kick it back to you, but my respect for him is not being a politician, coming in, and he has kept his campaign promises. So many people that run for office campaign on one thing. As soon as they get in office, they get re-educated and they don't do it. He has kept more campaign promises than any president that I am aware of. Mm-hmm. And it's not even close. And that is in the face of obstruction within his own party and obstruction from the opposite party. Also, he's fired people. And I really appreciate that. If you're not doing your job and you're in a government position, it's only right now in the last 3 years that you get fired. And I'll give you the example, the VA. That system has been mistreating our veterans for decades, and he fired people. He fires people because they're not doing their job. Prior to him showing up, you got a government job, you're retiring from that job. And he said, no, you're not. You're going to be held accountable. You're either going to earn the taxpayer dollar that's paying your salary, or we're getting rid of you. And by the way, he's not taking a dime for his job. He was a wealthy man when he went in. I truly believe Donald Trump ran for the presidency because he cares about the United States of America, and he was tired of being lied to by the Democratic Party, who he was the largest donor to, or his donations went largely to the Democratic Party for most of his adult life. And he got tired of being lied to by those same people. And he said, you know what? I can help be part of the solution. And I at least, to quote Teddy Roosevelt, I at least applaud him for risking everything to enter into that competition circle. And he just happened to win. And now they're like, oh, man. And they've been fighting him the whole time. He's not perfect. I'll get to my criticisms here in a minute. Back to you.
Oh, it's a lot, man. I think that I agree with you. He has been true to his campaign promises. He hasn't been flogged down by the establishment. I have to say that. I think that he's still. I don't think maybe he doesn't know any better to a point. As far as the Democratic establishment and giving the money to, why jump over to I would say this then, why jump over to the Republicans? I mean, sit here and he's gonna milk it wherever he can. He's a typical politician in my mind. He's gonna go where the numbers are. He's gonna go where the votes are. He's gonna go where the support is. And the Republican had the support. You look at evangelical Christians; they were on board with him 100%. And they
not 100%, not 100%. Oh. There are some Christians, evangelical Christians, that say he's committed adultery. He's had multiple marriages. He's not really a Christian. I've had people, my friends, tell me he's not really a Christian.
And then they go on and tell me, you want to talk about the establishment? You want to talk about establishments and deep state and Democratic Party? There you go. The evangelical Christian establishment, the movement, the churches, they are an establishment to the Republican Party. They are a huge revenue generator to the Republican Party. So, it goes both ways, Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump came in, he had to swear an oath to it. They wanted to see him go to church services. He went to some church services. They wanted to hear some certain prayers. He brought in the most extreme pastor overall that he could find to shut down the Bible Belt. I mean, one that this lady, I guess, brings in over 300,000 views a weekend. So, I mean, it's a political move, man. And that's just my view on it. As far
Well,
as
I'll say that the evangelical, again, because there is division in that group of people in the United States. There are some that will not vote for Trump because of his indiscretions.
the
But
true Christians, yeah.
but you can also say the vast majority of the largest aspect of the Christian church is the Catholic Church in the United States, and they heavily vote Democrat. That's been all the way it always has been, and I don't understand it because you, and again, the people that I have love in my heart for that are Catholic vote Democrat, who funds the killing of unborn lives, and yet you won't practice, if you're a good Catholic, you won't practice birth control at home. I don't understand. I think people need some psychological help here when it comes to placing your vote, because your vote really does end up paying for things, and you are responsible for that. And listen, I'm not God, but I'm hoping that my peace is made by trying to do the best job I can here. But I tell you, I guess it's good to believe in purgatory, because hopefully somebody can light enough candles and pay enough money to the church to get you out of that.
No, I tell you, I do want to clarify something. As far as when I say the real Christians, I'm referring to, the evangelical Christian base, the Catholics, the Christian base is based on church and foundations, right? But there's a lot of foundations, churches, charities even, that are out there that are faith-based, but they're run by one or two people that have been huge proponents for pushing through the political structure. So when I say the real Christians that are going to be pushing back, maybe be the establishments. Yeah, maybe it might be the larger establishments that'll push back against Trump, but I doubt it. At the end of the day, all these institutions, every single one wants to say, well, we stand on these morals. We stand on this. We stand on that. You know what really matters in today's day and age? After 2008, 2009, after the baby boomers started seeing their retirement funds completely depleted, what's going to matter this election is simply going to be one thing. It's going to be the almighty dollar. That's the only thing that's going to matter when it comes down to the mass majority of people voting, especially the constituents that are consistent and that are voting it in. I know more people that have already done absentee ballots in regards to it. Doesn't even matter what happens for the next 8 months.
I agree with you. And that's the reason why I believe this has happened. COVID-19 and the shutdown of the global economy is the only thing. Now, I'm quoting Jim Rickards. Jim Rickards had President Trump at an 85% probability of winning the November election. Today, after the result of all of this COVID-19 shutdown, which has collapsed our economy, he's got it at a 50-50 race.
100%. It's a 50-50 race. I really enjoyed, you sharing that, what you wrote in regards to going down to the governor of Michigan. It's wild what's going on. We are having the air choked out of our lungs, forced out of our lungs, essentially. And there may not be industry left when it's all said and done. There might not be. I mean, let's be real. And again, Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican right now. And that's the division. That's what I really wanted to focus on today, because it doesn't matter whether I'm a Republican or whether I'm a Democrat. It doesn't matter who I voted for in the past. What matters is
it matters who you vote for in the future, right?
100%. But then again, the political structure today is so polarized that it really doesn't. Let's be real. If we get a Democrat, let's say Whitmer goes to VP, right? Let's say she goes there and we get another Democrat into office here in Michigan, which will most likely happen. If she runs again, I agree with you, she'll be voted out. But let's say you get another Democrat in. It's not going to be industry based, and you're not going to see, progression of industry. You're going to see progression of inner cities and developments and money going that way. You're not going to see the infrastructure for the roads being taken care of here in Michigan. as far as the federal government goes, it's so intertwined. You want to talk about McConnell, you want to talk about, it doesn't matter, Pelosi. It is so, Trump was supposed to go in and drain the swamp. He hasn't done that. All he's done is herded the badgers together, and he's herded the, other generation of badgers together, and they're just fighting vigorously, and we're the ones to suffer.
So what you just commented on is my first criticism of Donald Trump's presidency. Overall, I think he's done a better job than most anybody I've seen in the greatest amount of obstruction in the face of that. However, to drain the swamp, it is mandatory that you cut off the money, because the money is what feeds the swamp. And under him, we have just given carte blanche to print as much money as ever. And it's not stopping. It's going to commit more. And what this is setting up for, in my opinion, based on everything I've read, and I've done some podcasts on this through James Detroit, and it is the IMF is the only clean balance sheet, and they're going to have to be utilized in order to bail out the Fed, because our system is ever increasingly approaching insolvency. And they're going to look for somebody, because the system, the people in control, that elite class, they're going to continue to, and I'll quote Bill Bonner, inflate until they die. And they've got some life left in this. Now, is that going to happen this year? Is the economy going to be propped up long enough to win an election and then just completely disintegrate? It really, this current financial structure is not, as much as I'm criticizing Trump for signing the documents and being part of this huge coup to take away the money from middle class America, which is really what this ends up being through taxation, either now or in the future, to pay for all this. We're going to be the ones to pay for it. But
I was going to say, who do you think anybody in that elite class that you're talking about is being impacted by this?
I just did one earlier, man. And that was what the focus was. It's taxation. Inflation is the silent taxation used by government that takes more money away from middle class America than anything. And okay, so you're gonna die and you're gonna pay taxes. I mean, those are the two things that we're blessed with, being born in America, but those are the two things that we were born into. And I am critical of Trump having anybody on the podium in his daily briefings and have anybody agree with them about the tracing elements, the police and surveillance state that is now coming in the name of, well, we need to know who's got this virus. We've been lied to about this virus so much, and it's really looking like the more we get the law of large numbers from these random sampled testing, large scale, this is looking like Fauci was telling the truth on February 29th all along. And that is, this isn't going to be any worse than the flu, a bad flu season. That's it. Many people will have this and won't have anything. Now we're required to give up our constitutional freedoms and our liberties. And the fact that under that executive order that Whitmer signed, she suppressed or eliminated the Freedom of Information Act for her and all the legislation in the state of Michigan until a further date, sometime in June. So we cannot even go in there and look and see, request the information on what it is they're doing. We have no idea. That's why I'm asking right now any state representative to call me, please. I don't know how I'm the only person not feeling like, how can we let this happen? This is Michigan. We're in the United States of America. How is it that I am one of the few people saying we need to take action? Back to you, Chris.
No, I don't think you're one of the few. I think that
I hope not.
There's tens of thousands of us out there, overall, I think everybody's just going about it in a different way. The last podcast, or the last time we spoke, I talked about the kind of the silence of the social media. You know, it's easy to send out a text or a tweet or a message that says that you're dissatisfied with something, but it goes in one ear and out the other. There's no patient persistence being taught with that process. Our younger generation, you think about the mindset of settlers, you think about the mindset of the pioneers that originally came to our country. It was survival, literally every day.
Yeah.
It was about feeding yourself. It was about getting to the next destination. It was about preparing for the fall, the spring, the winter. We've
How about
lost
100
that.
years? How about 100 years into that, and you're still wanting people to go into the inside continent, all the way to the other coast?
Yeah.
And I mean, the Oregon Trail, the
Yeah.
people that pioneered this country.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. If they knew that we were giving up our liberties and freedoms for the perception of safety, they would come back to life and kick our ass. And they could do it too.
Not
They
only
could do it
that.
too, because they were tougher than us. Those people were a lot tougher, a lot more brave.
Oh, 100%. Not a doubt, not a doubt in my mind. You know, we're so worried about average life expectancy, getting it up, increasing it, quality of life. We've been giving our liberties away a long time ago. When it comes down
We
to
have been. It's been an erosion. You are right.
It's been an erosion. Really, after the Depression, is when we started seeing a lot of our liberties starting to go away.
That is historically accurate. It was during the FDR administration that we had a lot of liberties erased. Hey,
Right.
listen, I know we are coming up on our time right now. I'll just take I'll take control of it and just say I appreciate you for spending time with me. I hope that we can provide a dialogue and a message that people would want to engage in and be part of a positive change for the United States of America, for the citizenry of Michigan. Let's continue to talk. And we appreciate any of you out there that view this, enjoy it. Please subscribe. Please share it.
Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you too. It's important. I mean, this is not just a dialogue for me and Jim. This is a dialogue for everybody to get engaged on. We can be a voice. So let's do it. It was a good day, good conversation, and until next time, buddy.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Chris. You guys have a great day.
See ya.